Man, Rooster, it's got to be 5 o'clock somewhere. Welcome back, everybody.
You guys already know.
It's round two.
Round deuce. I put a little of his Bloody Mary mix in it. Let's see how this is. Real quick.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually good. But like I said, it's because I actually love tomato juice. This tastes like a tomato beer. It's freaking delicious. I love tomato juice, so I'll just drink V8s all the fucking time. Dude. It's so good. It's actually really good.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, where we left off, I mean, we were talking about different, like, politics and points of view.
I was like, military? I forget exactly where the last point we ended on.
So, I mean...
But we're going into election season, so we know this next year is about to be fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be insane. And it's just like, it's the disconnect that happens with what goes on in the world, and we've got several things to touch on with this little episode, but, you know, again... a friend of mine kind of turned me on to watching Shawn Ryan, which, if you don't know, check him out. He's on YouTube. He's growing really quick. Ex-SEAL, worked for the government. He's got all these people on. He's had numerous guests, some very controversial stuff with Tim Ballard and Sound of Freedom and Jim Caviezel. He's had some presidential candidates on there. It's had some really weird stuff.
I don't know if this is who Jim Caviezel is. I don't know who it is. But this Antarctica whistleblower guy that I sent you this video of he used to be the head of the operations in Antarctica. And now he's on the podcast talking about how there are these giant nodes in Antarctica that create like this giant fucking beam that can not only be used to transfer information, but as like a weapon. And like that's what caused the earthquakes in New Zealand last year. And like, well, I don't understand how nobody knows about this.
Well, we've talked about this.
Yeah.
We've talked about it in personal life because who's been to Antarctica?
This guy.
Seriously.
Exactly.
I was there.
You told me about
2000,
the weird
2001.
shit you've seen there.
And that was one of the science projects that, I mean, I didn't have anything to do with it.
You were just like a grunt up there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was a crew chief to, over mechanics, so we were fixing equipment all the time. But you get to know everybody and you get to talk to the scientists and you realize that Antarctica, for some weird reason, and the way they explain this to us, and I don't know if it's factual or not, so there's a disclaimer, but the actual tectonic plate that Antarctica sits on is the only plate that's actually as close to being fused to every other plate on the planet.
Gotcha. So it's relatively like stable, is what you're saying.
Right. And so they put these listening devices out, and the reason that they put the listening devices out, as we were told, was so they can monitor for nuclear testing. Which makes sense, right? Because if you think about it, if you're above water and you hear something, sound travels across water, but if you're underwater, sound really travels.
Water is a more efficient medium.
Right.
Medium.
And so, it made sense to what that was. But I got all kinds of stories about when I was down there. And, when I was watching this, I was like, okay. I believe you. Because the things I've seen down there, I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of creature pulls out the whole bottom end of this freaking ice shelf?
Right.
And
I don't know if I remember this story particularly correctly, but you were telling me the story about how you saw this really tall.
Not tall, just really pale,
pale people. And they basically essentially disappeared into a closet. Like they walk into a closet and open it up and disappeared. And then I was watching these videos on all this alien stuff that's been going on and the theorized different types of aliens. And one of them literally sounded exactly like what you described to me. And, it's probably a far stretch to say that was maybe an alien, but it sounded like to me exactly what you described to me like you saw. And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, shit.
I mean... You have to, if people are really interested in it, so there's really two main operating seasons that are there. There's summer and winter down in Antarctica. Now, depending on the operational station that you're in. So I was at McMurdo Station, which is on Ross Island, which is actually separated from the main continent by about 50 miles. Okay, so literally you're on an island, but you happen to be right next door to the second most active volcano on the planet.
Yeah.
Mount Erebus. Yeah. So, yeah, you know, I was told when I was down there, as long as you wake up in the morning and see that thing smoking, everything's good. So, I mean, that's reassuring. Because you're trapped on an island with a volcano.
Fucking thousands of miles from the nearest land.
Talk about the thing, bud. Like, you're burning. You're burning. But, no, the story he's talking about was I went down what's called Windfly, and Windfly is the tail end of winter when you come into the transition season, and so it's when operational people come in, and they start coming in and getting things opened up, making sure everything's ready to go, so that when main population comes in, main operational population comes in.
How many people are generally down there at a time?
So that season that I was down there, it was over 1,200.
Oh wow, that's more than I thought. I figured maybe 200 or something.
No, it was over 1,200. Wow. But you also have transients where they come in out of other operational stations. The Russians, Italians. I mean, the Kiwis or New Zealanders are on the other side of the island.
The Kiwis.
But yeah, I was there and we're still in the transitional period where you still have night and day. But anyways, I wasn't working night shift at that time. But I came into the mess hall one day, and I saw these two people, man and a woman, sitting there, and they were just as pale as white paper.
Yeah,
you could see the veins in their face and their arms and their hands. And
did they have hair?
Yeah, they had hair.
Was it white? Like were they albinos? No. Okay.
No, but they were sitting there, and I'd never seen them before. And so when you're there at that time, where you know how many people are on base at that time. I think at that time there were about 300, 350. That's not very many people. Yeah, exactly. So you notice faces.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
And so I was like, what
what's
is
the deal with these guys?
Yeah, what's going on? And they weren't talking to anybody. They weren't doing anything. They got up. I got up, and I followed them. Well, they went into the science building. Well, I happen to have an all-access key. Go in the science building. But they went in, and I was kind of trying to tail them, and I wasn't trying to be like right up in them. And I noticed that when they went in, they turned to the right when they went into the science building. Well, because they have these double doors. And so I turned right, and then I saw at the end of the hallway, it's a dead-end hallway, and you can go right or you can go left. They went left. And so I gave it about 30 seconds, and I walked down to the end of the hallway, and I opened the door, and it's a fucking janitor's closet.
Yeah.
It's a janitor's closet.
There's mops and brooms. You're like,
there's no door. These people literally just went in this door, and there's nothing there.
That's fucking crazy.
But you also have to remember that is an old naval operational station, right? Since the 40s.
Yeah.
Right? So who knows what's underground?
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So that was just one little thing that happened with me down there.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go back and make sure my door's locked when I go to sleep tonight because I don't want to wake up on a table.
Getting dissected. Dude, all these public hearings they've been having about extraterrestrials and like the contact that we've supposedly had with the governments and like how the United States government has taken these advanced technologies from UFOs that have been crashed, and they have been literally blowing my mind, and it feels like nobody's talking about them.
Well, again, with Shawn Ryan, he just had a guy on there that was a Marine, and he was talking about the big earthquake that happened in, I don't know if it was in Indonesia. It was a 7.9. I mean, it was huge.
Wow.
So they were there just to give support, and him and his team were assigned to go to the site, to this area. Not I'm saying site, but they were told to go to this area, and they were Overwatch. And Overwatch, for what people don't understand, is that it's an elevated position that you can see what's going on, and that if you have any incursion, people that aren't supposed to be there, you neutralize them. Watch American Sniper.
Neutralize.
You'll understand. But he's talking about how when he got there, there's a whole craft that was levitating off the ground.
Wow.
At that site, and they were loading people into this craft. They were loading human beings into this craft. Not scientists, not soldiers, regular indigenous people.
The indigenous to Antarctica?
No. This is in Indonesia.
Oh, Indonesia. Yes, you did say that. I'm sorry. Yes.
But it was also surrounded, the craft was surrounded by what looked like military personnel, but not in military gear. Right? And they approached him and they told him he had to sign all this documentation saying he wouldn't tell a CO, he wouldn't tell da. And he ended up doing it, and then he survived an assassination attempt. It was documented.
Wow. What's this guy's name? Do you remember?
It was
the Marine guy? Yeah.
It was within the last week, 2 weeks.
We should really know this, but continue. I'll see if I can find it.
And to listen to this, I'm like, okay, well, it makes sense. I mean,
you're like, that sounds on par with what I've seen.
You know, you've got some people here that are trying to have some sort of a amicable.
Looks like George Scocca is his name, Scocca. If you guys wanted to look it up,
and you'd have to have some sort of cyclical relationship with an alien life form, right, in order to stay on even ground.
Yeah.
And if they're doing their little experiments, of course, you're like, okay, you need a handful of people? These people live in villages. Yeah, these people live in the trees. Nobody's going to realize they're gone. They just had this huge earthquake, so load them all up,
Jesus.
But, I mean, you got to think about it in the news just in the last 6 months. I mean, the amount of information that people aren't paying attention to about UFOs, extraterrestrials, flying spacecraft.
People are more concerned, like, with all this dumb bullshit, like fucking... I mean, obviously Trump's getting impeached and, like, all this stuff, but I keep seeing all this stuff that's, like, so irrelevant and, like, small-minded, and I'm like, there are aliens! Oh. They're telling us there are aliens. They're literally revealing everything to us, and nobody is fucking even paying attention to it. Or it doesn't get put in front of their faces,
But, we've talked about it on the show, though, too. It's like, what would happen if, literally, a craft came down in the middle of Washington, D.C.? I mean, broad daylight, just woo!
Yeah.
And you got these creatures or, humanoid life forms that walk out and...
These grays.
What happens to religion? What happens is a social construct that human civilization as we know it
has been founded on for thousands of years from what our perception of reality.
You want to talk about a complete mindfuck.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, all the Tammy Faye Bakers of the world sitting at home waiting to watch their Sunday, church show, they're totally shook. Because faith in a religious sense is just that. It's a personal belief. That when it becomes science, you don't dispute science.
Exactly. There's no arguing evidence.
Right? It's like, talk about, your gods or, your savior or whatever, but you can't touch them. Right. And all of a sudden, boop, there's this, and you can go up and go, oh, that's real.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, how do I know it's real? Oh, because these measurements prove it.
Right.
Literally, though. Right. But, I mean, I have no quarrel with people who choose to be religious and place their faith in spirituality. I think that's great for them and everything, but I agree that it's going to be a big fucking nail in the mentality of how they base their formulation of, like, God created the universe for us, and, like, we are the sole beings on this planet or whatever. It's going to be, and I think that's kind of what they're doing, is the more of this that comes out and they release to us and give us tidbits at a time, they're acclimating the entire world to the fact that
we're not alone.
We're not alone. Like, there's other people out there, and they're far more advanced than us, and they could flick us like a fly on their hands if they wanted to, but they haven't, because they don't want to do that. They're they're superior in their
They're following mentality. The Federation guy law.
The Federation law. Right? Seriously. That makes me want to fucking freeze myself so I can come out 200 years in the future and join the frickin' Star.
Maybe Walt Disney wasn't wrong.
About what?
I mean, he froze himself. He's cryogenically frozen so that he can come back.
Right. Yeah.
Think about all the people that have done that. Yeah. Maybe they're not wrong.
Right.
I mean, what's it going to take?
Right.
I mean, they can literally travel faster than the speed of light to get to other planets.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they can jumpstart somebody's dead ass body.
Yeah. Right.
I'm pretty sure they can do that. This
is a whole nother conversation, but the reason cryogenesis doesn't work is because when water molecules freeze, they crystallize, and that crystallization pattern makes fractures. So essentially you fracture all of the blood vessels in your brain when they freeze. It breaks the blood vessels, and so when they dry, they're no longer... So it's like, but realistically, For aliens, that wouldn't be a very big feat to get over.
We just haven't figured out the right antifreeze. Yeah. We just haven't figured out the right antifreeze. I mean, seriously.
Right.
I mean, you think about it. Look at all the things. It's like even with medical science, like as you're talking, it's like there is not a single thing that the human body ingests, right? As you as a person, that you ingest, that you use in its pure form. Everything that you ingest has to be converted to a usable form or element that your body can actually process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's not a single thing. Especially even the air that you breathe. What's the air that you breathe?
Oxygen and nitrogen and carbon dioxide. Lots of carbon dioxide that's going up.
Right. But your body has learned how to separate the oxygen and expel the bad.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's not a single thing that you ingest that your body uses 100% in its real form.
Yeah, that's so true.
What's to say that, 10, 15, 20, 100 years from now, when the technologies are made available, that your body can do a direct conversion of the elements
and be more efficient,
so that you are not in a deficiency.
Yeah, right, definitely.
And then your life expectancy is drawn out because you are efficient.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right? You use 100% of the resources in the most efficient manner. Yeah.
There you go.
Definitely.
So, just like I use
there's been a lot. Before I break into a whole nother topic, maybe we'll go into the next episode. But we need to get some refills.
Yeah, we got to get a refill because this is broken.
Yeah.
Let's see in a minute.
That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to, that show.